properties of water and because of the properties of fire. You know what I'm saying? But if you boil oil, the same thing doesn't happen. And people think that if you apply the same condition to every circumstance, you'll get the same result. But that's not the truth. The internal contradictions react on the external contradictions. So whatever is happening internally reacts to what's happening externally. So if internally, you know, when the people are not as organized or is not as politically astute or clear or involved in the organization, if the time is different, it's retrogression. You understand? As opposed to a flood of more organization, activity, speeches, and even the songs and everything else related to struggle and different things like that. You know, just organizing the folks. I think the organizing that was happening at that time internally was much more intense than it is now. And I think that the factors that existed in our community internally then don't exist now. So the same external factors that act upon our community don't get the same response, you know, and that's how things work, you know, throughout. I think we think that because the Panthers walked to the California legislature with guns in '67, you know, in the '60s, that we could do that now. You know what I'm saying? Like we try to apply everything the same in every circumstance, but that can't happen. Because, I mean, you have to look at the conditions, because if you can apply the same principle in different places, but you might not get the same result because of the conditions, the material conditions of where you applied it, you know?
I guess we can't predict then how people will respond. We don't know what they will respond to.
Sure, I don't think I don't think you can't predict. I think that you can have a level of predictions. That's how you predict outcomes. That's how we teach. That's how I teach children to predict outcomes. You predict outcomes by being able to understand the story. If you have a clear understanding of the story and the plot, or where it will what will logically happen next, then you can do some predictions. That's what they do to us. They predict our responses based on the story of, or historically what takes place, or what's happening, you know, internally, you know, or like Sun Tzu says, you understand yourself and the enemy. You understand? If you only know yourself, and we say know yourself. If you only know yourself, it's only half the battle. You have to know yourself and the enemy. Then you win.
But if you're going to predict based on I mean, that's almost contradictory, because you're going to,
of course it is,
based on historical, you know, evidence, and then you're saying you can't apply the same rules, or you can't, you know, based on the circumstances 30 years ago that don't apply today. Then where does that leave you really? You really can't predict. So if
sure, you have to do more studying and more organizing. You have to be able to identify what's the fundamental aspect of the thing that's driving the whole thing.
So what
you understand what I'm saying? And the thing, see, our problem is we don't know. We looking for the event. You don't know what event you know what I'm saying is you don't know what event. What you do know is the level of organizing that's taking place. You know what's happening internally in your community, and the things that you're doing, and how sensitized the people are, and how ready they are, and how conscious and supportive they are of the issues that you're dealing with, based on the amount of work that you've done. So you know if somebody reacts upon them, you know how the people will respond to that based on the work that you've done. You know if you didn't put the work in, that the response is not going to be there. The response that you're looking for is not going to come. You know that. You can predict their behavior based on what you've done. You based on that. It's not as difficult as we make it. If we don't do the work, we know we're not going to get the results. I mean, it's that clear. You see, what we think is that people, all of us, think the same way. Like people always say, we know the problem, we just need to know the solutions. We don't know shit. We don't know the problem. That's why we keep discussing it. We don't know the problem. We're trying to find out what the problem is. And once we have identified or isolated the problem and the fundamental thing that's driving the problem, then we can begin to work to dismantle that, to push our way into freedom. You know, and until during that debate and that fight, we have to push for more democracy. And I think that's what the campaign was about, a fight for more democracy. Increase the level of democracy, increase the level of participation, increase the level of literacy, increase the level of information, increase the people's level of understanding. You're affecting the internal contradictions and the internal properties in your own community, in a black community, in a Latino community, in a white community, in the workers community, you're changing that. So if something responds to that, if something acts, then you'll expect a certain response. Something as small as a taxi driver being beaten, and it's not as, and at that time it wasn't small, it was something grand. To something as great as a woman being shot in cold blood, and that being observed, you know, is proof to me that you know, the conditions didn't meet. You know what I'm saying? The conditions didn't meet. You know, it was the wrong properties that were there. You know, we was trying to boil you oil, and expected steam, and we just, you know, we didn't study it properly, and you just have to. And the only way that could be done is you have to get in there. You have to sharpen your theory, but you have to get into the community and understand what the people are dealing with, and try to push for more democracy and get involved in their fight, and try to direct it in some way. I think either we go to one extreme and tail the masses, we tail them, or we go to the other extreme and we don't get involved at all. And meanwhile, you know, everybody else is organizing them, and then we complain about the level of participation that we get in the events and the stuff that we do. You know, it's of course it's some of the things that we could do then we can't do now because the period is different. It's just retrograde.
Is there anything about the campaign, the way it was ran, or decisions that were made that, in retrospect, you would have done differently?
Well, I don't know if I could like just like if I could just say that completely. I think the major things that we did, we need to do. We have to continue to do. I think one of the fundamental problems with the whole thing is our relationship to the Latino community, and I think that you know, the conservative elements in this city and even nationally are working on like winning over the Latino community. You know, because, you know, it's one of the fastest growing electorates in the country, and definitely in Newark. And the people are making overtures to win them over, and they have no reason to trust us. Because I think with the Black and Latino conventions and all that stuff that we keep bringing them back to, and you can see that with Gibson, they didn't support Gibson. Most of them didn't support Gibson. And we bring back, why should they support Gibson? I mean, Gibson and them promised things that they didn't get. I mean, the Black and Latino Alliance promised the Puerto Rican community, promised our community shit we didn't get, we were supposed to get. So you know the Latino community didn't get what they supposed to get. Now you got these Negroes in power down there who are, like, in one sense, bourgeois nationalists and bourgeois democratic, who like want to hire their friends and family and be on some black nationalist stuff when it's beneficial to them. But you know, the whole Latino community is disenfranchised. Latino community in Newark is disenfranchised. They're segregated and disenfranchised. Have one Latino person on the entire, you know, electoral body in Newark. You know, a Latino councilman who's not even progressive. And for that matter, there's no serious. I think we need to make some serious overtures to Latino community, and we need to do some work. We need to get in there and do some work, and because their fight is our fight, and we just allowing people to isolate and divide our communities, and that's where we need to go. We need to just go there and spend some serious time winning them over, and I think that's important, and registering other people to vote. We just need to register as many people to vote as we can. We have to bring like so many people to the process to get them to vote in the process that they didn't expect, that they won't expect, and we have to protect it. We have to protect the polls and minimize the cheating, because we can't stop the cheating because we don't control it. Only thing we can do is minimize it, try to protect the things that we need and make sure they don't cheat there. Minimize the cheating, and because we ain't gonna stop them from cheating. You know, try to minimize it and bring as many people to the process as possible, and I think that we can win by doing that. You know, we go into the Latino community and make some genuine, sincere overtures. This generation with that generation, I think there's some debate and some discussion that needs to go on, and some apologies even needs to be made on a lot of people's parts in this city. And Negroes messed up the whole thing, man. We thought that if we you know, put together the Black and Latinos and put black people in power, that it would change the conditions, and it didn't. And people see that. And we have to articulate to them why that's taking place, why that has taken place, and what steps that we need to take to move further and to do something else. You know, we put them Negroes in office, and now we paying for it. You know, we paying for it. But they betrayed us. They betrayed the Puerto Rican community, and you know they have more in common with these corporations than they do with us. So that's what they do, and they know we starve. People in our community need jobs and stuff and things like that, so they supply them.
In terms of just some personal reflection, in the initial election, for at least about 2 hours, the campaign committee thought that we had won.
Right.
Okay, and then there was a pretty severe letdown when it came through that there was going to be a runoff. And I remember hearing you say, kind of mumbling to yourself, but I caught it on film, which I'm happy about. We're going to get them. We're going to get them. We're going to just keep doing what we're doing. I've taken that and building the campaign up again, up 6 weeks, and then having to face the fact that
Right.
you didn't win in so many tangible terms, but that, you know, knowing that, you know, that it really had been stolen. Like, just how did that affect you then? I mean, I was in the room, and it was heavy.
Well, I was hurt more so because everybody else was really hurt by that. It was really, and they should be, because they worked hard and they fought to make it happen. And you know, and people should be hurt. And I was hurt because I seen other people really hurt by that. To me, it's protracted. It's just one step at a time. You know, and them Negroes didn't even get power like that immediately. You know what I'm saying? One step at a time. And I know that it's going to take us one step at a time. And if we go for the quick fix, it's not going to be what we want. You know what I'm saying? We need to go with the people. If we go by ourselves, then we might as well didn't go at all, because we're going to be slaves. And we got to go with the people, and one step at a time. You know, I wouldn't give up the respect that I have, the respect that the people have for me, up for $1 million. I wouldn't give it up for a seat, for a job, for $1 million. I wouldn't give it up. The feeling that I get when people show me respect and shake my hand and like the fact that we fought. You know what I'm saying? That we fought back and we did what we can, and knows that we should be victorious. I wouldn't give that up for nothing. I wouldn't give that up. If I had to do it all over again and take Sharp James' money and win that and do whatever we had to do and win that race and, for the respect of the people, and had to give that up, I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't do it. And I might lose a lot of people, but I wouldn't do it. I just wouldn't. I couldn't. And that's real to me. But you know, and I was comforted in the fact that knowing that I was going to win, that we were going to win, that we're going to win. We're going to win eventually. I mean, I just feel like it's just science. You know what I'm saying? It's inevitable. To me, it's inevitable that we win. And as long as we struggle, the inevitability of it remains. You know what I'm saying? But if we give up the struggle, then we can't win. It's impossible to win. And as long as we fight, we're going to win. I mean, and we might not win when we want to win, but we'll win when the time is right for us to win. You know, and I believe that. I believe, and I'm not saying that in terms of like some like spooky stuff. I'm saying that when the conditions are right for us to win, when we've organized to the point where we have to organize, we've fought these people back, we've protected the stuff that we have, we'll win. You know, we'll win, and not one day sooner. And I believe that wholeheartedly. And to me, it means that we just have to work harder. You know, and by saying they're cheating is not an excuse or something. Saying they're cheating is just knowing where you at. You know, and knowing what your enemy has done, and knowing if they had to cheat for you to lose, mean you won already. You know what I'm saying? And it means that they're not going to be able to cheat like that forever. You know, and we're going to bring so many people to the process that them cheating won't even be enough for them to win. You know, unless they completely expose the entire thing as being a complete fraud. You know, that people just completely say this thing, you know, and that's what we got to do. And that's what I am going to do. And that's what, you know, I think that needs to happen. And I think everybody around us going to get there. We're gonna get there. You know, I'm not pessimistic about it at all. You know, but I definitely was hurt, no doubt. I definitely was hurt because you put in a lot of work. You put in a lot of work, a lot of time, a lot of energy. You sacrifice your energy and time and other people's time and energy, and you weren't even able to pay these people everything they was worth. You know, people did it out of love. And, you know, you would figure that these people are not as evil as they are, but they are. They're evil. They're even more evil than we think they are. Definitely.
When your brother was
Actually, I got a question. I'm curious about if you can clarify the political line of the campaign,
Mm-hmm.
because I think we know what Republicans stand for, we know what Democrats stand for. What did you stand for, and what is your political line? I mean, we oftentimes talk about right and left. How would you describe, or in a very brief kind of way, your campaign and what you stood for?
Well, I think the makeup of the campaign identified clearly what we stood for. In a segregated city like Newark, the makeup of our campaign, of the people who worked, of the Christians and Muslims and atheists, communists, and, you know, all kinds of people working towards more democracy. And I think that our campaign represented that. You know, the political line of our campaign was put people first, you know, was take it personal. And I think that that embodied that everything that's happening politically in our lives, everything that happens to him happens to me, everything that happens to her happens to me, everything that happens to this family happens to my family, that it's personalized, you know, that it's not just business. And they want you to say this, don't take it personal, it's business. But people not eating is personal, it's not business. You know what I'm saying? It ain't just business. Well, I had to make that decision, it's just business. Don't take, it's personal. It's personal that we don't get the proper funding, that our kids are failing, that they want to close our schools, and the state is taking over. They've taken away our voting rights. That's personal to me. It's personal because it deals with my democracy. It's subjective and it's objective. You know what I mean? I mean, it's all personal. When the blockades in the city, it's personal. All of this stuff that's happening, it's not just something that's like people look at politics as something that they can't touch, something that has nothing to do with them. That they can't be involved in. As long as other people control it, it can be used against you, you know. And we have to be involved in the politics. Local politics is probably, in America, is probably the only level of politics that people have to actually make a direct difference in. You know, that's probably the only thing that they have. They won't have nothing else, because you ain't gonna make a difference in nothing else as much as you can have something done locally in your neighborhood. And I think the things that you do locally in your neighborhood, you use them to organize and politicize people about greater issues that are taking place. I think that's what we were trying to do. And I mean, we weren't in line with the Democratic Party, and we weren't in line with the Republican Party. But there were Democrats who participate, the people in the Democratic Party participated in our campaign. There are people that were in the Republican Party that participated in our campaign. As well. There were people who were in no party, in the Communist Party, that participated in the campaign. And I think finally that's what we have to be about, some type of broad range of things that pull people in. People believe, I think regular folks, they follow these people because they have some type of faith in them, that they're going to do something. They really believe like the Democratic Party is about democracy, and it isn't. You know, that we were the real Democrats there. I think they believe, people believe that people tell you stuff like, I'm joining the Republican Party because we can't put all our eggs in one basket, and all kind of reasons, because they just want to win. They don't know, they just want to get out of the situation that they're in. I believe that, you know, and we have to present people with an alternative agenda, with something alternative to be involved in, to let them see that what we think and what you think is not so completely different. That we think some of the same things. If we hang around each other long enough, we find out that that we ought to be here together, and that that we were meant to be together, organizing and fighting. That we have the most in common, and that the stuff that people have been telling us are lies. You know, we have to pull the progressive elements out of the Democrats. We have to pull the elements out of Republicans. We have to pull the progressive elements out of all of these places that they are, and put them in one place and energize and organize workers. That's what we have to do. You know, and I think sometimes we take positions that take us out of the equation. Like we no longer in the equation, and we leave the people to be organized by a whole bunch of by other folks. And you know, I think that we did that the best. And why it's even important for us to be involved. If you think that your line is revolutionary and that you need to be taking people to a certain level, you need to be involved in the struggle. Like if the broad base, the mass organization is there, and people are involved, it's people fighting for a review board and the right to speak and all this stuff. Who you thought would have never even thought that, who you believe never even believed that, but you finding out that they think these things, that they agree with you. And if you believe certain things, you have to get in there and debate with people and discuss with people and take them to the next level. Like I thought it was more important for me to speak at the church on the corner than it was at the Black Radical Congress, because I probably will never get a chance to speak to the people at the church again in my life. And they'll be believing the stuff the Star Ledger say and the other stuff that these people say, and they have to know that we're not crazy. And that the stuff that we think and that we believe is fundamentally some of the things that they think and some of the things that they believe. You know, and that we on the right side. And they should come with us and support us. And I mean, I just think that. And I'm tired of going to things that only us are there. We always preaching to the converted. And we don't, and one thing the campaign did for me was the campaigns is going to speak to people who don't believe what you believe, or at least you think, and winning them over. We could have never done, see, it's stages, we could have never done the council at large race without the mayoral race. I mean, that's just how I believe. And we couldn't have done the mayoral race without the community organizing that we did. And we couldn't have done the community organizing that we do without the community organizing that people did before us. And they couldn't have done what they did without the people that came before them. So it's protracted, and we following the steps. We just following the right steps. People want to skip steps. You can't do it. You know what I'm saying? They just want to skip stuff. You can't. You just got to hang in there and fight, man. It's the most committed. You know, the last person standing. I mean, you know, like I tell in basketball, I tell the girls, until you see the last zeros, keep fighting into that buzzer ring. I mean, that's what we fought for, at least, more democracy, more inclusion, attack fascism wherever it stuck its head, or things that attack the people's rights. That's what we talked about, and trying to take money from these corporations and put it in the hands of the people and resources from them. And people agree with that. Whether we think so or not, I think fundamentally people agree with that. They agree that they should have something and that these corporations should pay. I think people believe that. And if we work, then, and because of the period we live in, the retrograde, it just make our work that much more difficult. It just make our work that much more difficult and make it longer and more tedious.
Russ, you want to take a break?
Yeah, I mean, it's on y'all. I don't care.
Forming alliances with other groups, other persons.
You just have to be careful, Have to know what you're doing and why you're doing it. I think that's fundamental, and always see if it'll help you or hurt you, and if it goes against your principles. I mean, all of those things have to be weighed. I mean, you can't want to win more than you want to be principled. You know what I'm saying? You just can't do that, because then your purpose of wanting the seat is distorted now. I mean, you now see, it's a fight. I look at it as a fight. You know what I'm saying? Me and somebody else is having a fight, a debate, and the whole of the city is watching this. They're observing what I'm going to do and what this person is going to do. They're going to offer him money. Will he take it? They're going to do this. Will he do this? What is he going to say? What's going to happen? Where do they move? It's a debate. It's a struggle that we're going through with these people, that we forced ourselves into a position. We forced ourselves to get into the ring with these folks to go at it with them. Now you got all these people that are watching and trying to decide direction to take, or whose side to be on, or where we gonna go, or how committed these people are to making this happen. You got folks who've been there already, who did the things you did, who watching, who trying to see if we for real, if we serious. You got people who committed that once you take the step that's gonna help you out to go further, you know. And we have to. And sometimes when you're impatient, you know, you bite. We bite everything. You know what I'm saying? And you just, you know, you just can't do that. I mean, I don't. That goes back to me saying I wouldn't give up the respect from the people for nothing else in the world. I just wouldn't do it, and I won't. I still won't. You know, I won't do it. And I'll take the longer route than the shorter route, because to me the longer route is going to pay off in the end. The harder you work for something, the more it's worth to you. I mean, to me, the longer route will pay off, you know, for me. But also, you know, dialectically on the other side of that, you have to make some alliances because, I mean, when it benefits your struggle. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you look at, like, struggle internationally, and you see, like, how Mao and you know, the workers and revolutionaries of China had to align themselves with Kuomintang at one point. You know what I'm saying? You have to organize yourself. You have to align yourself with people. Like, we align ourselves with the bourgeoisie, with progressive elements of the black bourgeoisie to defeat racism. To defeat racism. But then on a larger level, you understand that those people aren't your complete allies, and that when time and condition change, those people who want your allies will turn into your enemies. You understand? And that you have to understand that and deal with that and keep that in your mind. And when you make these alliances, not become naive to think that because you're with them now, that you're always with them, that they believe what you believe. You know, you stay with them and you try to win over as many of them as you can, even to the, and you always should be always be organizing. You know what I'm saying? Always be trying to win people over to what it is that you believe. You know, let all your ideas come out, have the debate, the struggle, and win as many people over as you can. But you still have to understand that fundamentally those class differences remain, and that they have more in common with their class than they do with you. And I think that when the conditions and time change, the people who are your friends will be your enemies. And you always have to keep that in mind when you make your alliances. When they make alliances with us, they always know that we're their enemy. They always know that we're their enemy. They know that. See, the black bourgeoisie is mad at white supremacy because they can't make all of the money or be in charge. Of course, they'll be with support black businesses because they the black businesses. You understand what I'm saying? Of course they'll be with all Bob Black because they own the businesses. And they know that like materially, if we give them our money, it doesn't necessarily mean that it'll translate back into our communities and our hands. It doesn't necessarily mean that. It should, but it doesn't mean that. You know, on its face. They know that, but you know, on the one hand, it benefits us to get rid of that, segregation and apartheid and all that stuff. It benefits us to get rid of white supremacy and racism, and it benefits them. But once we take it to the next level, which I think that we are blossoming into in Newark, the next level that people are seeing, that we grew up in, that we seeing that we have to fight with them. Like the people who were once on our side are now our enemies. Now we have to fight with them. The people who we put in office are the ones who are locking us up, who are putting these blockades on the streets. You know, that we have to fight with them. And that's what we have to be able to see, that once the time and conditions change, things change. Your enemies, you know, your friends become your enemies. And sometimes people who were your enemies become your friends at certain situations. I mean, so it's you have to understand the two-sidedness of it. You know what I'm saying? And it seems like a contradiction because it is. You know what I'm saying? And we just have to be, we just have to work it and understand the contradiction, which side has the leading role at what time and at what condition. Which side has the leading side, which is the leading role. Should we unite with them at this point? Should we fight with them at this point? There's strategy, you know. Should we unite at this point? Should we fight at this point? And we have to be clear. And you can't make your decision based off of emotion and people's individual whim. You know, it has to be based on some real research and understanding and analysis, in my opinion, you know, because it's true. And people think, well, one day he was talking to, they was his friends, and the next day they enemies. Yeah. The United States do that with everybody in the damn world. One minute they befriending them, next minute they blowing them up. They blowing them up. We have to see that. Be sophisticated in that, you know. We have to see that, you know. One minute this person might have to be my friend in order for us to achieve this. Once we get to that point, now I'm moving on that. You know, now that becomes our enemy. I mean, so it's clear to me. I mean, it's not a contradiction. It is and it ain't. Huh?
How old are you?
I'm 29 now. Yeah. April 9th. Yeah. Yep.
Not going nowhere.
But you know, I had a
Anything to add?
and people just, you have to know that struggle is not like glamorous, you know. It's grueling, and sometimes you don't want to do it. I think them people wanted to get on that bus knowing that people might explode it, you know, when they was trying to desegregate the South or crush apartheid. A lot of people don't want to do that. You have to. A lot of people don't do what they want to. A lot of people don't want to do the stuff, and it just take, even if it's 3 or 4 people, it just has to be done. You know, especially if it's, you know, as retrograde as at the times are now, man. I mean, you be lucky you get 20, 30 people in a place. You know, and sometimes you think it's because of you, but it's because of the time that we living in. It's because of the contradictions that exist, the conditions, you know. The conditions are not there. People think that the 60s happened like a phenomenon. It just dropped out of the sky. Boom, the 60s, you know. And it's not even in context with like the struggling that was going on in the 50s and the 40s and the difficulty in the underground. People had to meet in the underground and in the secret, the House Un-American activities and all that shit that took place. The stuff Robeson had to go through and all these people had to go through in order to give them the ability to do the stuff that they doing. You know, we wouldn't even been able to run in Newark if it wasn't for, you know, the whole fight, you know, the Black and Latino Convention, the Gary Convention in 1972, the Black Power Conventions, you know, Fannie Lou Hamer and the Mississippi Freedom Democratic Party. Wouldn't even be able to do this stuff. I mean, and we have to recognize that. And I think the importance of recognizing that will help us become more patient with what it is that needs to be achieved. You know, it'll help us become more patient. And I think patience is necessary in order to win. It's just patience and the day-to-day work that nobody want to do. People want to show up to the event, but they don't want to organize for it. Man, you know, that's it for me, you know. We just gonna keep organizing to 2002 and hit them again, you know. It might be sooner than that. You know, just keep them on their toes.
But no, if you have people in your house all the time, you know, it's very hard to do anything. And we always have people in our house, so, you know, you have to learn to balance that, you know. One day, if you have that experience, you'll know exactly what I mean. Go ahead.
Well, we appreciate you taking the time for this. Let's jump right into it. Starting broad, can you tell us a little bit about yourself? Starting real broad.
A little bit. Oh, it's hard.
Why don't you cut to the chase? I mean, it's the bottom line, you know. You know, I think one of the questions that we asked Amina earlier was, you know, because we're focusing on Ras's campaign, you know, maybe we could talk a little bit about Ras as a youth, how you interacted with him, how he developed politically, you know, how you, obviously you were a model to him and he noted that through his discussion. If you could talk a little bit about his youth, how he developed politically, what you saw, you know, and how it led up to today, how he became the man that he is.
Well, Raz was brought up in a political context, you know. There are photographs of all the children, you know, being carried around mostly by their mother, one arm, or, you know, in the youth organization that we had, Super Seamers, African Free School. So he was raised in a context of struggle. That's the only thing that he ever, you know, experienced in terms, all of our children were raised in that context of, before they came into the world, they were born into, you know, the homes of political activists. And, you know, and the schools we sent them to when they were young, the African Free School was a school that we had created so that they learn some things that other children don't learn until they're, you know, adults, I guess. And some things, of course, they didn't get exposed to, you know, the things that they have in the public schools. Then, at another point, when we got rid of the African Free School, because organizational decision that we were only teaching a private school, and that even though we had 100 children in the school, that it would be difficult to go past 8, you know, through. So we eliminated the school and started working in public education, at which time all of the children were sent to public schools, where they've been, which kept us in the schools all the time. Raz got out of, you know, this school, went to Howard University, and he, I think about the second year, developed, you know, a more serious kind of, you know, stance toward the world, I think. I guess that's general. And I think, what was his junior year? No, his junior year. Actually led the student organization in taking over the administration building. You know, they sent a SWAT squad and all that stuff. I had to go down there and threaten them. But that was to keep this, what was it, Bush person, Republican, off the board of the Howard University. What was his name? I can't think of his name now. And then Bass came out, you know, and he and Sister Soldier were very close. You know, they went to various kinds of summer camps and things like that. And then Raz had gone to some other little, you know, schools around. We tried to expose him to certain things because we knew he had been kind of deprived, you know, even though he had an intense kind of political upbringing. So we sent him to a couple of places, you know, up in the, for the summer. So he I can't think of the name of this joint, but it's a college that he was up there. But anyway, when he came back here, he had already organized Black Neoforce at Howard. And so this was a continuation. And when he got back, I think a year or so later, he wanted to run for mayor, ran for mayor. It was a sudden decision and kind of spontaneous, so, you know, the planning wasn't there. The second time he ran, though, was clearly the result of a campaign by, you know, the corrupt politicians and the state, meaning not just the New Jersey state, but the federal government, and I have the documentation of all that, to stop him from getting elected. Why? Because the city is going through a transformation and urban renewal and so forth. And you don't really want people looking over their shoulder the way they're dispersing with the citizens, driving them out, you know, selling property, you know, city property, county property, all kinds of corruption and bribes. And the people that we elected don't represent us. And I think it's clear by the fact that not only did Raz lose, but then in this county election, Gibson lost, and the same kind of disposition of forces. That is, all the people who were against Raz were against Ken Gibson. And as a matter of fact, they came out on the steps of City Hall and endorsed Treffinger. Sharp James said he was for Gibson, but I saw no evidence of it, and I'm pretty sure that was like Sun Tzu says in, you know, The Art of War, make a noise in the east and strike in the west. That's what it was. He sent all his forces to support Treffinger, but he personally raised his hand to support Gibson. And I know, you know, that's, I mean, it's obvious to people who've been in a war what they were doing, but a lot of people went for that, but I never went for that. I knew what he was doing all the time. As far as Raz, he's going to be a great poet. You know, he's one of the finest poets and writers I've seen. You know, I mean, you can say it's nepotism, but it's actual. And he edited a book in tradition a few years after he was out of college. And if Ras, and this new CD he has called Shorty for Mayor, if Ras was, say, a literary figure like these Buppies and Yuppies and stuff, if he would concentrate on that, he would be a very well-known international writer. But, you know, he, like myself, knows that the literary and artistic part of it is just a reflection of what you are doing with your life, you know, and that the struggle for, you know, democracy and socialism, national liberation, are finally, you know, not only the catalyst for, you know, a great literature, but they are more necessary to, you know, the masses of people, you know. And I think that he's made the right decisions. I think that he has to, you know, be clear that how he, you know, disposes of his energies, obviously. And like myself, learn his enemies from his friends. But I think Ras is on the correct road, and I think the next election he'll win, you know.
Can you talk about
One quick thing beforehand, as you're moving.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, sorry.
Can you talk about lessons learned in back however long ago during Gibson campaign? Lessons learned during.
You mean the early Gibson campaign? Well, we were black nationalists then. We were cultural nationalists. And I think that election was actually the point of demarcation, because once we had driven out all these white corrupt politicians, racists, and elected a slate, community's choice. We had the Black and Puerto Rican Convention, which was a precedent. You know, we set up the community's choice. They thought they could win because they didn't understand what we were going to do. So we brought, you know, people from all over the country, you know, I mean, from Jesse Jackson to Bill Cosby to Dustin Hoffman to, I mean, all kinds of people. The Temptations, I mean, James Brown, Stevie Wonder, you know what I mean, out here in the street, you know. But see, two things. One, when that happened, those politicians, those racists, they never thought we could do that. See, that was the first time we used culture as a weapon. You know, we had billboards with Cosby smiling with his finger, vote the community's choice. I mean, all kind of stuff like that. You bring in the Supremes and stuff like that. See, but then the black bourgeoisie was supportive of trying to get rid of the white folks, you understand? So that they could take their places and we could see neocolonialism. And we recognized that very, very shortly. We recognized it very quickly. But I think our mistake was, number one, you don't let them, that's a bourgeois line, you don't let them run and you sit in the back unless you're prepared to shoot them. You understand? You have to have people who are loyal to the same general principles, you understand? And the people that you run for office have to be, you know, if you're building a revolutionary party, have to be related to you, to that party in terms of its principles, organization, and so forth. You can back candidates who you think are more progressive. You know, look, I voted for, I'd vote for Bill Clinton. I voted for Gibson. But the point is, in terms of trying to actually create a base for a revolutionary democratic struggle, you have to put your people out there. You see, and that's a mistake we made. We elected all these people. Up to a couple of years, every black person in there, we put in there, including Sharp James, you know. But it was a lesson that is hard to understand completely. You know, experience, like they say, you know, and Ron Karinga said this, you know, I mean, you know, that's how old it is. He says it's not the best teacher, but it is the most painful one. You know. So, yeah, we put all these people in office, and it's like Petals of Blood, you know, the book that they ran in Ngugi wa Thiong'o out of Kenya, you know, in which the Mau Maus, when they were driving these British out, you know, first they never drove them out, but driving what they thought was British rule out, that the very people who supported the British, the Kenyans, the Africans who supported the British, they would cut off a piece of their nose or cut off their ear to identify them as traitors. But then after that was over, and this is a poignant incident, This one brother who was an officer in the Mau Mau is sitting on the side of the road selling oranges because he can't make it. So that's against the law, so he gets arrested. Who does he face in the court? The judge? One of the people whose nose he cut off. See? So all of these people, and that's, you know, all of these people around here, you know, they fear us on one hand because they know that given the concentration and the mobilization, we could kick them out of there, you know. But at the same time, they have to take this line of being cautiously affable, you know. So that's where it is. It's like being any kind of radical element in these bourgeois communities. They try to keep you cool, but at the same time, they really hate you. And that's what you need to understand. You know. Here it's more difficult because we have old community ties. You know, I was born in this town. My wife moved here when she was about 1. You know, so that our roots, family, are deep in this city. I mean, I can't go down the street without, you know, standing there talking to people I knew when I was a kid. You know, anywhere, the bar, you know, the store, the church, city hall. But I think what it is now, the people finally, I think this last charade of Sharps, I think finally got the people ready for Ras, because I think a lot of them still thought he was too young, you know, I mean, that kind of backward idea, you know. But now they saw and they see. And that's why one thing, we're going on the radio, taking Felipe Luciano's show for about 6 days. That's what I'm trying to do, get this show ready. And one of the questions that we're going to ask is, why did Ras Baraka and Ken Gibson lose? And who are the elements behind that loss, you see? Because we're going to beat these people up for the next, you know, 4 years. You know, that's the only way you can do it, you know.
Sid, Elections with Lenin says that electoral politics are a gauge of the maturity of the working class.
Well, you see, politics is all the things that, you know, make it up. You know, it's not this or it's not that, it's not this. It's all the things. What is it? Seizure of power. Seizure and maintenance of power. That's what. Revolutionaries' main interest is the seizure of power. If you're not interested in the seizure of power, then you're not a revolutionary, you're something else. Maybe the loyal opposition or something. But these people who think that the only mark of, say, radical revolutionary politics is that you do a lot of demonstrating and you call the bourgeoisie names, that's not going to do it. You know, you have to learn actually to take power. Otherwise, it's a charade, it's a joke. If you're out here just wanting so because you can be against what everybody else seems to be and just stand out and say, you know, F the bourgeoisie, down with this. That's not revolution. That might be titillating for a moment, you know, certain people. But that don't make no change. You know, the question is the seizure of power. And how do you analyze the forces in a particular society to see who are your friends and who are your enemies, and how you utilize them in terms of their own needs to transform, you know, society and ultimately seize state power. And see, that's one of the problems we had with the one comrade who just left out of here, that he never understood that you got that anarchist view, see. It's an anarchist who thinks the state is the enemy. The state is not the enemy. It's the class that is the enemy. We want to seize state power so we can smash that class. That's the only way you can do that. How do they smash us? They send the police, they send the courts. You know, they have the state. Bam, bam. The state is nothing but a weapon, an instrument. It's a gun. You know, now if you run around and say, I hate guns. Okay, you could hate guns. I don't like to kill people. But I know that to have a gun, who to shoot. You know, I mean, that's the point. The point is, if anybody who tells you that you can't utilize electoral politics is like an imbecile. You know, I mean, Lenin, Mao, all those people wrote book after book after book after book. I mean, the point is, people call themselves Marxists. How did you say that? You never read Lenin? You know, these people think that when you make revolution instantly on that day that you walk into the office of whoever is running it, that the economy, boom, it leaps into socialism. The bourgeoisie has been here several hundred years. Do you know how long it will take to get rid of capitalism and build socialism? The only way you can do that is to have the power. You cannot do it without the power. But even with the power, then the real struggle begins. You see, I mean, 1921, Lenin still couldn't get his books published regularly. Why? The bourgeoisie still owned doggone print, owned the publishing companies. And in a country like the United States, that's why you talk about an absolute dictatorship that is by law and by force of these classes. You know, you're going to have a transformation, a transition here in the United States. You know, you're going to have to put together an alliance of working people, you know, the democratic petty bourgeoisie, and even some of the national bourgeoisie, you know, the national minorities. You must. But it must always be under the control of the working people. When we say majority rule, there's only 0.6% of this population who is the actual bourgeoisie. But 0.6% rules 300 million people. You know. But the point is, they have the control. How do they do that? You know, they first get in your mind, and then you don't have to eat. See, I mean, that's the way they do it. And they ultimately do it because they got the gun. You know, they got power.
Getting back to the campaign, in terms of building alliances, can you elaborate on the decision that was made earlier on not to build on any ticket, to stay independent?
Well, you know, that might have been a mistake. I know that was my position. You know, I made some suggestions to align with certain people, you know, Puerto Rican sister in the North Ward, and who else? I know she and somebody else. I thought that might be good on the second go round. The first go round, I didn't think so. The second go round, I put forward a coalition, but they rejected it. Then I thought it was best to stay away from certain people, because I thought as a councilmanic candidate, you understand, that he didn't need to align himself with at-large people, because they would take away from his vote. But I think that was an error finally. I think probably we should have aligned ourselves with the sister in the North Ward, and probably Cory Booker, the sister in the West Ward. Those are the people I want. The sister in the West Ward, Bridgeforth, sister in the North Ward, and I was very reluctant about Cory Booker because of his background. You know, I didn't trust that background. You know, what was it? Yale, Stanford. He was a what do you call those scholars that go to England? Rhodes Scholar. Rhodes Scholar used to be just for Europeans. You know, Americans, South Africans, and English. You know, so I was very, very wary of that, and I was wary of a person who had more money to run the first time than an incumbent. But he proved to be, you know, much more viable candidate than, say, George Branch. You know, the rest of them. I mean, I wish him good luck. I hope that he, you know, pursues the correct line.
You had talked about your roots being very deep in Newark. I know when Maya Angelou came up here, you know, she said one of the things she admires about the Barakas is that they've stuck to their roots. They've stayed with the community, and they've always stayed with keeping the family strong. Now, how is that, those decisions on your and Amina's part, allowed someone like Raz the opportunity to be in the position he is in now?
Well, see, you know, one hand, remember, I had been away from home. I went to college, I went to the service, then I went to Greenwich Village, went to Harlem. I stayed away. Went to college from 51. Went right into the service. I came back in 1957. I went to New York. I stayed away till 1966, New Year's Day. So I was gone, you know. So when I say that, I was gone. I had found out what I wanted to find out about the world, actually. You know, I mean, in the sense, you know, because my own feelings were that if I wanted to do anything, it had to be, you know, for black people, and that I would not ever be satisfied with what I did unless that was true. So finally, you know, I worked in Village, I worked in Harlem, but then I decided to come home, you know. She had always, I mean, had always been here. I mean, she came here from North Carolina, didn't stay, you know, and they organized a lot of arts, you know, arts groups in Newark, political groups in Newark. But I was in New York doing that. I mean, you know, certainly the arts, you know, the black arts, different political organizations we put together. I mean, I was in New York. I went to Cuba, 1959, 1960. You know, I met Fidel Castro and, you know, Robert Williams in the early 60s. I mean, a long, long, long time ago, you know. So The black arts started when? 1964. I went to Harlem 65, right after Malcolm died. That lasted a year. We put together the first black arts program there, and the thing was coming apart. People shooting at each other, you know, because we were talking black, but nobody knew what that meant. You know, was you a black nationalist? You a communist who was black? Are you a Muslim? We had everybody in there. So that didn't work, but we did do some very good things in terms of the arts. You know, we brought a mass arts program to Harlem. Every night we had 5 trucks in the community. You know, music over there, dance over there, art, you know, painting, graphics over there, you know, poetry over there. And we would switch it around every night, you know. And so the concept of black arts got to be a national idea based on that, you know. But then when that fell apart, I could understand that first, we were not ideologically clear, and second, we were too disconnected from the masses of the people in an organized way, certainly not in terms of sentiment. So I came back, you know, and then when I came back, I decided that this town, there were already more black people than anybody else in here, but they were not organized. So we started to organize, you know, we built a theater, built a school, built a United Front organization, and we organized around nationalism, black nationalism. And we learned from that, you know, the fallacy of nationalism, the dead end of cultural nationalism. You know, even though we were a lot of the people we were facing here were straight out white racists at the time. But still, I think we knew better than that. You know, and the one thing about our organization is that we studied. You know, Lynn says study, learn, organize. We studied. And that's why the people you see come out of the old Revolutionary Communist League, the old CAP, they know politics because we studied regularly. We had classes twice a week. We had people come in. You know, we studied, we read the whole history of the Communist Party, Soviet Union, Bolshevik, together. We read Foundations of Leninism together. You know, I mean, we read that, you know, once a week we had a session. You know, we learned, you know, and so there's a practice. Theory actually can only be understood through practice. You know, it's like a map. You can look at a map. It don't look like nothing but a map. When you get on the road, you have to look at the map and say, well, this must be this must be this. See, that's the only way you could do it. So we made our sojourn, you know, and for these people, you know, I read this thing, people say, well, we could not organize the people from the national movements. There nobody organized us in the national movement. We became communists because we had worked our way. See, you know, I mean, we elected people. We did community work. We elected mayors and city councilmen. You know, we organized National Black Assembly, 8,000 black people from 50 states. You know, and we organized the African Liberation Support Committee. You know, we went to Africa. We went, you know what I mean? We were working hard. We studied hard. And finally we came to the conclusion based on our own work, not nobody organizing us. That's why I was so pissed off when I heard somebody think that sitting in a room by yourself somewhere studying Marxism and then you're going to organize the people, you can't even answer the questions that they have. You know, and so we learned, we did it the hard way, you know, no doubt, but we learned. You know, organizations split up, went 1,000 different directions, but then recently we came to this Black Radical Congress, and interestingly enough, looking around that room at those people, we could see people who were in RCL, see. So the minute you see them, the minute we see them, Amin and I, we know that you got some work ahead of you, because they know how to organize. How do they know? Because we taught them. We learned together, you know. So, I don't have any real regrets in that sense. You know, you can say, I wish I did this, I wish I did this, I wish I wasn't dumb, I wish I was smarter. You know, I wish I was 7 feet tall, you know, I wish I had money. But in terms of what actually happened in life, we've done some good things. We've made a lot of mistakes, you know, but like Mao said, when Du Bois came to Beijing, Du Bois said, I made a lot of mistakes. Mao said, you never made as many mistakes as the Communist Party of China. See? So the point is, you're not going to do anything unless you're willing to go out there. And if you make a mistake, hey, stop making it. That's all. Nobody's perfect. But like this comrade who was in here recently who would not even acknowledge the mistakes. You understand? Who would not even acknowledge that he had done something dishonest. See that? You can't do that. First of all, because nobody will trust you anymore. See? But then, fundamentally, for your own sake, either you are living still with a false understanding of the world, or you're content to hide behind a mask. Either way. So the question, the thing about open and above board, hey, not only is it organized, it's for your own sake. Because if you don't clean that garbage out, like sweeping this room, you don't sweep the room every day. Hey, stuff piles up. All kind of bad ideas.
I wonder if you could just give us a post-election analysis. What would you say were the successes and some of the weaknesses of the campaign?
The campaign?
For the Ras Baraka campaign. And the other question I have is...
And this is the last one, this question, right?
Two-part, right.
Yeah, because I got work to do, real work, right?
Just give us like a thumbnail sketch again of the campaign, post-electoral analysis, and also your role. What did you feel your role was in the campaign? It was your son, after all. If you could talk about that relationship and the role that you played in the campaign.
Well, my role in the campaign was to raise funds, which I did. To call the people I know and raise funds and try to bring some people in to do some things. The people I tried to bring in, except for Maya and, Felipe, maybe a couple other people, were not successful because the people that I could have gotten, say, 30 years ago and said, come on, Bill Cosby, see, it's a different world, and there's real class struggle. And the black bourgeoisie is not about to run in and help you beat them up. See, so it's a different world. We did get some money, but, that's the way that goes, I got more money from Warren Beatty than some Negroes around here who got just as much money, you know what I mean? That was my role as a consultant, raising money. I think I should have taken a more of a leadership role in terms of strategy and tactics, and that was, I think, a real error, because when you don't have your hands on something, you make false analysis. Also, I depended on Union Struggle Organization to do a lot of things, and I didn't understand that there was some real deep, serious problems with that. Because the areas that we lost got beat up worse were the the white and Puerto Rican areas, which, that you're going to have that fall off. But if you know that in the beginning that you got to deal with that, you're going to deal with it. And we didn't deal with it. And but I think that I could have made a better analysis in terms of alliances, because since Sharp had an alliance, I should have insisted on that alliance, because that means then you're going to have a broader face. But at the same time, if you look at the documents that we put together, I think they've spent $600,000 to beat him. The AFL-CIO endorsed Raz, but the locals went against them and actually sent out literature for the other people. You know what I mean? Hey, they jammed the machines over there. They did everything they had to do. Plus, the mayor said anybody but Ras Baraka. Plus, remember this, he's got 16,000 people down there. He's got 16,000 city workers who must do. They, of course, can go and vote anywhere. But, most people, think about their jobs, if they vote or don't vote, but there's 16,000 of them. And the state, like I said, federal government, state's attorney, if you read the old church committee hearings on CIA, FBI, attacks on American citizens, you'll see the same profile that was used in the 60s was used against Raz. The whole thing about the zoo crew, getting this man the day, election day, they come into court, or where they release the information on election day. You know what I mean? That fake bus, which was a lie, they haven't said what they busted them for, not except bottles, empty bottles. They haven't told you yet what was in the bottles or how much money they got. And then again, it's not, recent. It's like one of the reasons I say that Tupac got wasted, is that he didn't know when he said Shakur. See, that sent a shiver through a lot of folks. His aunties and with Castro, his mother was a Panther, his uncle was a Panther. Shakur was, they were out there on the highway in New Jersey shooting, with, what's her name? Whitman, she tried to get extradition of Asada from Cuba. You know, that's how mad. So to say Shakur, so same thing trying to tell my own children, to say Baraka, if you're not responsible for that, you have to know that when you say that, that sends a particular kind of message to a lot of people who might not be your friends. You know what I mean? Some unwittingly, because they've been influenced, and some because of a doctrinaire line coming from the state. You know, I mean, I got 3,000 pages of stuff in the 60s. I had to pay, what did I pay for that? A dime a page? $300, something like that. 3,000 pages of stuff, you know. And some of it they could have got if they asked me, you know, copies of books and stuff. They could, I would send them the manuscript, you know. But they actually would put, you know, wires in theaters and actually then have somebody type the whole manuscript. I said, I got the manuscript here, you want to see the play? You know, they came to us and told us the Black Panthers were tapping our phone. They sent letters to me saying they were going to kill me. It was supposed to be from the Panthers. I mean, it's always, you know, I mean, I still got my teeth knocked out, my head split open. I know who these people are, and they've been doing this. So if you say Baraka, like you say Shakur, you know what I mean? You better, like Malcolm's children, do you think actually they weren't tracking Kabila and children? I mean, do you think that actually is some kind of spontaneous thing? Be black and try to buy kerosene or gasoline from a gas station. In New York, over here, go over there with a gas can and say, give me 5 gallons of gasoline, see if you get it. Not since the 60s. So for a little 12-year-old boy to go down and get a can of gasoline, that taxes my mind, you know. But anyway, the point is that Ras is sincere. He's a very brilliant, bright young man. And I expect him to succeed. See, the problem is they know that he will do the things he says. See, that's the problem. You know, they know that, you see, because all these people are bought. You know, most of these people are prostitutes. These politicians, these various administrators are prostitutes. You know, that's what we mean by opportunism. Opportunism, right? You cannot fight imperialism unless you get rid of it. And opportunism surrounds us. You know, and you have to fight it. Even opportunism in so-called communist organizations. You know, settling for the short-term goal rather than struggling to the end.
I was wondering if there was any point at which you yourself had thought about running for office.
Did I? No. Why? That might have been there. I thought I would get killed. I thought they would murder me, you know. I mean, not in any kind of, because the 60s is different, you know. When I got almost killed, and they kicked my teeth out, split my head open, you know, hit me with a gun. Only people saved me was people in buildings throwing stuff out there. They brought me not to the police station, but to police headquarters, to the chief of police, and threw me on the floor in front of the chief of police. Said, we got you. When I published a picture of this man who'd been shot 35 times, 8 times in the top of his head, I published a photo. They put out a warrant for my arrest. The police have come up in our loft when we were rehearsing, this is before Gibson, and taking scripts out of my hand. You know, this was like Germany. You understand what I mean? I mean, just like fascist Germany. You know, they've come in my house 4 or 5 times. Even after we got these Negroes down there, they came in this house. And they said that they had a call that we were torturing a policeman on the 3rd floor. I wasn't here, but they terrorized my wife. The kids have been taught what to do. They went, you know, so they didn't even know they was in here. You know what I mean? And they witnessed it, you know. But I mean, that was with the black folks. How many times have I been to jail and in court since Negroes got in here? 4 or 5 times. My children have all been to jail. Obalaj, Yahi, you know, Ras and Amiri been arrested. Amiri was knocked out in Montclair. He was locked up, and this was after he had got shot in the head. You understand what I'm saying? So this is, when you like that, then you have to try to gauge exactly what you want to do. You know what I mean? I figured the best thing for me to do is to try to organize as broad as I can, and to see that people run, because I know they would kill me. You know, I understand that. You know, it's not a magic thing or anything like that. It's just, like the man said, this is the life you chose to lead. You know what I mean? But I'm not going to make it easy. You know, I mean, it's very easy to go out there like that and choom, you know. I don't think they're going to do that to Ras because they figure he's young enough to be bribed or something like that. But these people are murderers. They killed Malcolm X, Martin Luther King, Bobby Kennedy, and John Kennedy in 8 years, 9 years. These are murderers. You know, I could go on. Medgar Evers, Ralph Featherstone, you know, Huey. I mean, it's just incredible. So you have to be very, very careful. And I think that's the problem, that people don't really understand that you might be playing, but they're not. People say, do you believe there's a conspiracy? No, they just casually went over to Africa, got those people, brought them back. They got $1 billion, but if you want to take it away from them, they'll let you take it away from them. You know, just say, you know, hey, I want your $1 million. You kidding me? Try to take a ball away from a little boy, see what he do. You know, try to take these billions away from these people. You think they're just standing there and say, well, maybe they'll get it, maybe. Well, this is a democracy. No. The Civil War ended the democracy. At the end of the Civil War, it was not possible to be a democracy in the United States. You understand? Because when they did that to the slaves, and with that, the poor white people in the South, because that's the big secret. See, that there are millions of poor white people. See, that's the secret. But how do they cover that secret? Well, first they make black people the chumps. Black people and Latinos, you know, all people who are not white. But the poor white people, they make clowns. You understand what I mean? That's why you have the Beverly Hillbillies and Lil Abner and the Dukes of Hazzard. You know, the good old boys. They're clowns. You understand what I'm saying? So, and what do? They turn them against us. Like all them crazy people blowing up buildings and shit. First thing they want to say after they talk about Jews, which is an old holiness fight between the churches, they want to talk about blacks. We don't have their money. What they buy, you know? But that is how they work it, you see. But the poor people, the majority of poor people in this country are white. The majority of people on food stamps, the majority of people on welfare, the majority of people who need scholarships, the majority of people unemployed are white people. What do they say? Them niggas got your stuff. Them Puerto Ricans got your stuff. Them Indians got your stuff. And it works. Why does it work? Well, why does the belief in God work? Somebody tells you. You've been raised in it. You know what I mean? I just say that because I couldn't believe in a God that want to make me poor. I mean, that's out. You know, I at least had to have a hearing. You know what I mean? So it's the same thing. You know, I mean, but these people have been shaped that they actually believe these things. And the South, again, read the stuff on the South. They always talk about New York City and Chicago, the murder capital of the world is the South. Jackson, Mississippi, go down there and check that out. New Orleans, they kill more people there than New York City. You understand what I'm saying? It's the poorest people, the poorest place, the least educated. You know what I mean? And some of those white folks up in them hills, what they call hillbilly, poorer than black people. Always been poorer than black people. That's why they resent black people, because the blacks, the slaves, sometimes was living better than they was back up in them hills, you see. But it's interesting because that's the job that has to be done. You know, the education of the American people is a hell of a task, but they won't let you do it. They're not going to let you do that. That's why politically correct now has gotten to be a joke. See, because they must hide their history. They must hide it. They're running the world. This is amazing. And that's the argument I have with that comrade. He really thinks that imperialism is still, now are in the time, this is the bourgeoisie said, they don't even call the financial officers of the countries no more. They call the financial officers of the corporations. You know. The largest, the 24th largest gross national product in the world is what? General Motors. There ain't but 23 countries make more money than General Motors. See, and I ain't even put in the rest of them, you know, Microsoft and all of those people. You understand? Only 23 countries make more money than General Motors. You understand what I'm saying? It's incredible. Is that it? Okay. Right. I'm sorry. I got to get this thing together by Monday. Oh, Jesus God, I did that.
As far as that knowledge, you know, it's only now in New Brunswick where things are actually happening, you know, that we're actually accomplishing things that we realize how much we were kept back.
Well, you know,